Bit by bit, we keep getting a trickle of interesting and exciting information on the upcoming MMORPG from RuneScape royalty Andrew Gower, Brighter Shores. An MMO that's actually launching later this year and kind of shocked us all with an announcement not long ago. Of all these little tidbits, most of them are coming from Gamesradar in an interview that they did with Andrew Gower and continue to give out little pieces of. And these pieces are making me really more excited about the game than I already was. Although there's one exception that has me a little bit nervous. Let's start with the mechanics. Something for Brighter Shores is being described as cozy and relaxing. We know that you'll start the game as a town guard of Hopeport, and that the initial part of the game is supposed to be a relaxing escape. Which makes sense given Andrew's previous iteration, RuneScape, contained everything from farming and woodcutting to magic and strength skills. And yes, don't think relaxing and cozy means that there's no combat. There's absolutely combat. We got to see combat in the game, so don't make that connection. In the trailer, we've already seen some of those things in action, like the different trade skills we'll get to explore in Brighter Shores, but just how grindy will they be? Well, that's something he touched on when interviewing. You can do things in the game, and you can sit there, chopping down trees all day if that's what you want, Gower explains. But you can also set your character off doing things automatically. So you can set him to go and mine some rocks overnight, or something like that. Now, hearing that, I am immediately torn because number one, I get very bored doing those things like mining and like harvesting wood and stuff. It is perhaps the most mind-numbing thing that I do in MMOs, but I know a lot of people really enjoy that. The second thing that I feel is that, well, I got very, very up in arms against the autoplay features of Throne and Liberty. Granted, the autoplay features in Throne and Liberty were about combat. And I think that might be a big dividing line for me, because once you automate one of the biggest parts of an MMO, what's the point? And it doesn't sound like this is going to be automating things like crafting either, but it is still one of those things. I'm like, well, we're towing a line here, and I need to see how it's implemented before I make any final judgment on it. And it makes me wonder about how is it going to work out and how will it be balanced? Because if you can make it to a point where yes, you can just have your character go and do it overnight, what's the benefit of doing it in person? Like they have to balance it some way, and it just kind of it always makes me a little nervous when I hear about automations in MMOs. But perhaps that's a concern that they were aware that I might have, this fear of what are they going to do to make sure that there's a feeling of accomplishment and that there's a reason to do it yourself, because they had this to say in the interview about it. They don't want this to detract from playing the game, so you won't be able to automate too many tasks, and doing them yourself will yield much better results. It's really just meant as a nice sort of fun, log in the next day and you've gotten some stuff overnight. You've got a bit more experience, you've got a bit more money, you've got some more materials you need to do the thing you actually wanted to do. Further on in the interview, I think we see a bit more of this reasoning that really pushed toward this, as he talks about how players will likely do it anyway, so fighting against it is a bit of a losing battle. This is again where I kind of find myself on the fence. It's a little bit like saying, well, hey, people are already going to bot this process, so let's legalize the bots. I suppose the most important part of this is going to be how it's balanced, and that's something we won't know until we see it. But for now, let's just say I'm concerned, but also thankful it at least doesn't seem to be combat related, and that at least they've been considering how it could potentially impact things, while also maybe giving something that could, in some ways, if it provides something small, give a little bit of a help to players that aren't able to devote as much time to the MMO as they used to. On the crafting side of things, there's one thing that really stood out as being truly cool and something I think more MMOs should do. It's all to alleviate the grinding process by essentially changing the most efficient option frequently. It wasn't clear in the interview if this would be a manual process, but anyone who's ever crafted in an MMO has probably gone to a guide site somewhere to find what is the fastest and least resource intensive way to go about it. Now I will caution here, this could simply be the standard fare of 0 to 20 silver sword, 21 to 32 bronze breastplate type thing, but I'm hoping this is something more dynamic, something they could tie to more content updates for the game to breathe life into the crafting. We'll see. But whatever the case, it sounds like Brighter Shores is working hard, and this might be my favorite part of all the little things that we've seen, to alleviate one of the biggest MMO sins I have seen over the last 10 to 15 years. And that is essentially giving you a path that you just have to get through to where the game actually is. Essentially, oh, the game starts at endgame. All this crap, all the things, all the dev work, all that time, all that story, all that lore, it's fucking useless and you don't need to bother with it. Well, that doesn't sound like what Brighter Shores is going for. As Andrew said in the interview a couple times, this is about the journey. It's not just about getting to the end game and seeing the epic things there. Although they have said that they do plan on having things like that, it's more about the journey of the MMO, which, thank you, because what is the point of all those zones if you're just gonna funnel players into a single instance at the end of it? What's the point? I'm so tired of MMORPGs that are just boring and bland and have no challenge, no threat, no intrigue, nothing for 50 levels, 60 levels, 100 levels, with this promise in the background from veteran players and the devs themselves that, oh, we promise it'll get better. It should be good from the start. Why waste the time? We'll see if they can live up to that, but damn, I didn't mean to go on that rant, but still, you know? But what about monetization? About microtransactions? We already know the game will have a free tier and a premium tier, and it won't have a box price. Though honestly, it still sounds a lot like a big free trial and then a subscription model for the rest of the game. Well, the answer actually sounds pretty good, but I think a lot of it may hinge on the subscription. On the subject of microtransactions, Andrew Gower was very clear that he is opposed to the current onslaught of microtransactions in modern games, saying things like, there's just way too many microtransactions for my personal liking. I like to buy a game or subscribe to a game or whatever, and then have everything. I don't want to be asked every 5 seconds or tempted every 5 seconds to fork over some money. For Brighter Shores monetization, it sounds like what they want is to find the balance that has been missing in a lot of games, a balance that is going to be enough to fund development, continued development, and of course pay the devs for all their hard work, and also not be annoying and terrible and always in your face, constantly throwing new microtransactions at you, using different tactics and things that are just damn annoying, like things like price anchoring all over the place. We'll just have to see exactly what it works out to. I expect them to use some of the things. I'm not going to pretend that they're going to somehow be like the bastion of non-monetization issues, but it's at least nice that they're saying the right things at this stage, which is just a couple months out at this point. Here's hoping that they find the right balance, but if you want to learn a bit more about Brighter Shores, find out more in this video right here, where I covered everything about the wet gnomes and purple indigestion, all the details you need to know about Brighter Shores. My name is Edward Flynn. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and hope we can play an MMO soon that's not terrible. Bye, guys.